The most dangerous people in the world aren't the cruel, they're the weak. Because weakness doesn't stay harmless. It hides in politeness, spreads through fear, and destroys silently. It poisons discipline, drains confidence, and infects entire generations before anyone notices. That's the enemy Machiavelli warned about. Not evil, but softness. Today, we'll uncover his darkest truth. Why weakness is the invisible disease behind mediocrity and misery. And by the end, you'll know exactly how to kill it before it kills your potential. Before we start, ask yourself this. Do you choose strength or comfort? Because one builds your empire and the other buries it. Comment below, which side are you feeding right now? Weakness is a program, not a personality. Weakness isn't something you're born with. It's software installed into your mind before you could think for yourself. From the moment you could walk, you were taught to obey. Be nice. Don't make people uncomfortable. Say sorry even when you're right. These sound harmless, but they're commands that train compliance. Society doesn't raise lions. It breeds sheep who follow rules written by wolves. Every time you silence your truth to stay polite, you reinforce the code. Every time you seek permission to act, you surrender the right to lead. You think you're being good, but you're being domesticated. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Power isn't taken from the weak. It's offered by those afraid to stand alone. Look around. The most obedient people aren't the most respected, they're the most ignored. Because the world doesn't reward submission, it exploits it. The moment you stop needing validation, you become unpredictable and therefore powerful. Start by questioning every belief that keeps you small. Every rule you never challenged was written to control you. Freedom begins with disbelief. The silent disease of the modern mind. Most people aren't tired, they're spiritually starved. They mistake exhaustion for effort, distraction for purpose, and silence for peace. They think avoiding conflict makes them good people, when in truth, it makes them invisible. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He warned that nations fall when people confuse safety with virtue. That's exactly where we are today, a generation that believes weakness is moral strength. We praise passivity and call it peace. We glorify tolerance while erasing standards. We celebrate softness and call it kindness. But here's the cruel irony. The world despises the weak it pretends to protect. The nice guy gets used. The patient worker gets overlooked. The polite dreamer gets crushed by louder mediocrity. The system feeds on your restraint because restraint keeps it stable. When you stay silent, you keep the powerful comfortable. Your silence doesn't create harmony, it creates hierarchy. The strong rule not because they're chosen, but because the weak refuse to rise. So stop mistaking peace for paralysis. Stillness isn't calm, it's surrender. And the longer you stay quiet, the louder your regret will scream. The comfort trap. Comfort is the most seductive prison ever built, and you pay rent with your potential. It whispers, you've done enough. It tells you to rest when you haven't even started. It rewards you with momentary pleasure, then punishes you with long-term regret. Machiavelli warned that comfort breeds corruption, not just in rulers, but in souls. He wrote that those who fear hardship are destined to serve those who don't. That's why the powerful grow stronger through pain, while the comfortable grow weaker through ease. Look around. How many people do you know who have been living the same year for the past 5 years? Same job, same excuses, same dreams gathering dust. Comfort has them convinced that stable means safe, but in truth, it means stuck. Their potential didn't vanish, it atrophied. Every time you avoid what challenges you, you confirm to yourself that you're not ready. And every day you stay in comfort, you become more afraid of leaving it. That's how comfort wins. It doesn't stop your growth overnight. It starves it slowly. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors the bold, not the balanced. He believed that greatness is born in conflict, not comfort. Your life is the same. It grows only when you do what feels unsafe. The gym hurts. The confrontation burns. The risk terrifies. But that's the price of evolution. So ask yourself, are you living to be comfortable or to be capable? Because every easy choice costs you something permanent. Comfort is a silent assassin. Growth is the only cure. Weakness makes you a target. The world doesn't attack strength, it tests weakness. Predators don't chase lions. They circle the wounded gazelle. In life, that law never changes. Only the jungle does. At work, in relationships, even within your circle, weakness is a scent. It tells others, "You can take from me without consequence." It's the tone of hesitation, the smile that hides discomfort, the apology that shouldn't exist. And the world hears it clearly. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." That doesn't mean cruelty. It means boundaries that bite. It means your no carries weight. Your presence commands attention. People think twice before wasting your time because you've made your standards sacred. Weakness, on the other hand, invites predators. When you tolerate disrespect once, you teach people how to treat you forever. When you explain yourself to people who have already decided to misunderstand you, you give them leverage. When you hide your strength to keep others comfortable, you tell the world you're disposable. And here's the Machiavellian truth. People may use your weakness, but they'll never respect it. Even those who benefit from your compliance secretly despise it. Because deep down, everyone admires resistance, not surrender. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's silence that refuses to explain. Sometimes it's walking away without warning. Sometimes it's saying no once and meaning it. You don't earn respect by being nice. You earn it by being necessary. And the moment your weakness disappears, exploitation vanishes with it. So remember, the world tests boundaries. Make sure yours don't break easily. The 4 lies that keep you powerless. The world doesn't just teach weakness. It disguises it as wisdom. We're fed the same poison in different bottles, generation after generation. And the more noble it sounds, the more dangerous it becomes. Let's expose the 4 biggest lies that keep you powerless. Lie 1. Good things come to those who wait. No, good things come to those who act while others hesitate. While you're waiting for the right time, someone else is taking what could have been yours. The universe doesn't reward patience. It rewards momentum. Lie 2. Everyone deserves respect. Machiavelli would laugh. Respect isn't a gift, it's a negotiation. When you hand it out freely, you teach people to devalue it. Respect must be earned, guarded, and enforced. Otherwise, it becomes pity. Lie 3. Just be yourself and people will like you. But which self? The untested one, built by comfort, or the sharpened one, built by challenge? The wrong version of yourself attracts the wrong people. The right version might make others uncomfortable, and that's exactly the point. Lie 4. Everything happens for a reason. That's not destiny, that's denial. Things don't happen to you. They're shaped by your decisions, your actions, and your silence. When you believe this lie, you surrender the throne of responsibility. Machiavelli knew the truth. People who believe in fate become servants to those who believe in force. And that's why the world is ruled by doers, not dreamers. So start rejecting the lies that make weakness look noble. Because every time you trade accountability for comfort, you give away another piece of your power. Truth hurts, but lies kill. Emotional slavery. Most people think power comes from control over others. Machiavelli knew better. Real power begins with control over yourself. Because if someone can manipulate your emotions, they own your mind. Think about it. How often do you react instead of respond? How often do you let anger, guilt, or fear make your decisions for you? That's emotional slavery, and most people live their entire lives in it. You can spot an emotional slave by their predictability. Insult them, they rage. Ignore them, they chase. Approve of them, they submit. Their feelings are public property, and the world uses them like buttons on a control panel. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does later. The fool reacts. The wise man calculates. One lives by impulse, the other by intention." The stronger your emotional control, the harder it becomes to manipulate you. Because emotion without calculation is chaos. But emotion with calculation? That's power in its purest form. You don't suppress your emotions, you command them. You feel anger, but you decide when and where it's useful. You feel fear, but you use it as data, not destiny. You feel empathy, but only for those who've earned it. The modern world rewards outrage, impulsiveness, and attention addiction because predictable people are easy to rule. But when you master your emotions, You become unreadable, unpredictable, and untouchable. So from this moment forward, repeat this until it's truth. I am the master of my emotions, not their slave. That's the line between power and control. Replace emotion with calculation. Emotion is human, but calculation is divine. The moment you start thinking like a strategist instead of a survivor, your life changes. Most people make emotional decisions and then build logic to justify them later. The powerful do the opposite. They decide with reason and let emotion catch up. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be both the lion and the fox, brave enough to face danger, wise enough to outthink it. That's not philosophy. That's emotional mastery disguised as strategy. Because emotion without direction is chaos. And chaos is what weak people call passion. Think about your worst decisions. They didn't come from ignorance. They came from impulse. You knew the truth, but you felt something else. That text you sent in anger. The deal you refused out of pride. The apology you gave out of guilt. Emotion ruled, and you lost. Now imagine doing the opposite. Someone insults you, and instead of reacting, you calculate. What response increases my power long term? You don't play defense, you play chess. Your every word becomes a move, not a reaction. That's how Machiavellian minds operate. Emotion fuels them, but never controls them. Before every decision, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What outcome do I actually want? 2. Will this action get me closer or further from it? 3. Who benefits most from my reaction, me or them? Pause. Think. Then act. That's the rhythm of power. Emotion may be the fire, but calculation is the hand that shapes the flame. Feel everything, but decide nothing until your logic approves. Control your reactions, and you control reality. Strategic detachment. Attachment is the quiet killer of powerful minds. It looks like love, loyalty, or commitment, but in truth, it's dependency wearing a mask. The moment you need something too much, you've already lost control over it. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned rulers never to build power on what they couldn't afford to lose. The same applies to you. When your happiness depends on another person, a job, a status symbol, or a specific outcome, you've surrendered the throne of your peace. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing. It means you want the best outcome, but remain prepared for any outcome. You act with focus, not desperation. You love with presence, not dependency. That's real strength. Calm, silent, unshakable. The detached man is dangerous because he cannot be coerced. Offer him validation, he smiles. Take it away, he's still solid. You can't threaten him with loss because he's not defined by what he owns. That's freedom. Desperation leaks power. It makes people predictable. A desperate man will over-apologize, overshare, and overcommit, trying to control what's already slipping away. But the detached man plays the long game. He knows rejection is redirection. He knows outcomes don't define worth. And because of that, nothing owns him. Machiavelli wrote, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." In other words, circumstances change, but the wise man remains centered. He adapts without losing himself. That's what strategic detachment gives you. Power without pressure and control without coldness. Detach not because you're emotionless, but because you refuse to be controlled. Love deeply, fight bravely, build passionately, but always stay free. Because the one who can walk away at any time rules every situation. If you've made it this far, you already feel it. That quiet fire burning in your gut. It's the part of you that's tired of being controlled by fear, comfort, or approval. So pause for a second and declare it out loud. Strength over comfort. Comment it below. Because the moment you write it, you make it real. And we're only halfway there. Machiavelli's darkest truth is still waiting for you. Weakness is a beacon to manipulators. Ever wonder why toxic people always seem to find you? It's not coincidence, it's physics. Weakness emits a frequency. Manipulators can feel it before you say a word. They don't hunt strength, they hunt softness. They look for the person who avoids conflict, who apologizes too quickly, who confuses kindness with permission. Because weakness signals opportunity. Energy vampires, fake mentors, controlling partners, they all feed on the same thing. your need for approval. Once they know you crave validation, they own you. They'll flatter you when they need you, guilt you when you resist, and discard you when they're done. It's not personal, it's strategy. Machiavelli warned rulers to appear merciful but remain guarded, because compassion without boundaries becomes weakness. The same law applies to your life. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates you control. And if everyone has a key, don't be surprised when strangers walk in and rearrange your peace. You can't stop manipulators from existing, but you can stop broadcasting that you're easy prey. Start saying no. Speak less. Watch more. Don't argue. Document. Don't react. Observe. And remember, approval is the leash they use to walk you. Cut it, and you're free. The myth of niceness. Niceness is the most overrated virtue of the modern age. People worship it like a moral badge. Just be nice, and life will reward you. But the truth? Niceness is often cowardice dressed in courtesy. Machiavelli understood that too much mercy breeds instability. He wrote that a ruler who tries to be universally loved ends up universally disrespected. The same is true for you. When you prioritize being liked over being respected, you become invisible. Being nice means saying yes when you mean no. It means tolerating disrespect to avoid conflict. It means smiling when your soul wants to scream. That's not virtue. That's self-betrayal. The world doesn't reward nice. It rewards valuable, disciplined, and assertive. People don't respect those who please them. They respect those who challenge them. So stop trying to be liked. Start being clear. Clarity is kindness. Weak agreement is cruelty, both to yourself and to others. Don't confuse being fair with being soft. You can have a warm heart and a sharp edge. Because when your kindness has boundaries, it becomes strength. But when it doesn't, it becomes manipulation by others or by your own guilt. Stop being nice. Start being real. Nice men finish manipulated. Real men finish respected. Weak men worship comfort. Strong men worship growth. Weakness has a religion. It's called comfort. And its altar is everywhere. Your bed, your phone, your excuses. It preaches sermons of safety, patience, and maybe later. And its followers grow softer by the day. But strong men? They worship something else, growth. While the weak chase pleasure, the strong chase resistance. While the weak pray for luck, the strong prepare for war. Every rep, every rejection, every risk becomes an act of faith in themselves. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the bold, but he meant more than luck. He meant endurance. Those who face discomfort willingly evolve into something rare. The body grows under pressure. The mind sharpens through struggle. The soul hardens in solitude. Look at anyone you admire. They've all bled for their strength. They've all faced the darkness that others avoided. The difference between weakness and strength isn't talent, it's tolerance for pain. Weak men seek ease and die quietly. Strong men seek challenge and live loudly. So when life offers you comfort or growth, take the one that hurts. Because every comfort you surrender today becomes strength tomorrow. And every challenge you run from becomes the regret you can't forget. The power of controlled fear. Fear isn't the enemy, it's a compass. It points directly toward the parts of yourself you're not in control of yet. But most people misunderstand fear. They think it's a signal to stop. In truth, it's an invitation to evolve. Machiavelli believed that a ruler must inspire fear, not cruelty, but respect born from power. He knew that fear was a tool, a motivator, a mirror. When you control fear, you control focus. When fear controls you, you become predictable. Think about it. The moments that changed your life all began with fear. That first risky decision, that confrontation you avoided, that opportunity that terrified you. Fear is proof that something meaningful is at stake. But here's the twist. Controlled fear transforms into strength. Uncontrolled fear mutates into weakness. When you face what you fear deliberately, you absorb its power. Every time you lean into discomfort, your brain rewires its limits. Machiavelli wrote, "Men should be either feared or loved, but never despised." To fear yourself, your own discipline, your own potential, is the first step to mastering both. So don't kill your fear. Tame it. Because when you can feel fear without flinching, you become unstoppable. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're standing exactly where strength is born. Why society rewards the weak. Here's the truth no one wants to say. Modern society needs you weak. Because weak people buy more, question less, and follow orders quietly. The system doesn't run on courage, it runs on compliance. From childhood, you're trained to obey authority, trust the process, and never question the rules. They call it education, but it's conditioning. They tell you to seek stability, not sovereignty. And every good citizen they produce keeps the machine running. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that rulers reward submission to maintain control. In The Prince, he explained that it's safer to appear generous than to actually empower others. Empowerment creates rivals. Obedience creates order. That's why society praises humility but punishes self-confidence. It celebrates being humble but mocks ambition as arrogance. It teaches you to fit in, then wonders why no one stands out. It claims to protect equality while quietly enforcing hierarchy. Weakness keeps economies stable, workplaces obedient, and people distracted. That's why the strong are labeled toxic, selfish, or dangerous. Because they can't be controlled. They don't need validation. They don't need permission. And that terrifies the system built on dependence. So remember, when the world tells you to be smaller, quieter, or softer, it's not giving advice. It's giving orders. And every time you obey, you trade a piece of your power for peace that isn't real. Don't be the product they designed. Be the disruption they fear. The art of ruthless self-respect. Power begins where self-respect becomes non-negotiable. And self-respect isn't a quote, it's a code. It's the set of invisible laws that determine what you tolerate, what you allow, and what you pursue. Being kind doesn't mean being available. Being patient doesn't mean being passive. Being forgiving doesn't mean forgetting patterns. Machiavelli believed that the first duty of the wise is to protect their dignity. He wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. Self-respect is both. Love turned inward, fear projected outward. It makes others careful, and it makes you calm. When you stop negotiating your worth, everything in your life recalibrates. People who once took advantage of you suddenly walk on eggshells. Opportunities that once ignored you begin to notice you. Because the energy of respect starts within and radiates outward like gravity. Ruthless self-respect isn't arrogance, it's accuracy. It's knowing your value so precisely that compromise feels insulting. It's walking away not out of anger, but out of clarity. It's no longer explaining your boundaries, just enforcing them. Machiavelli didn't admire cruelty. He admired control. And the person who truly respects themselves doesn't need revenge, they just move differently. So here's your commandment. Speak less, demand more, and let your silence make them uncomfortable. Because when you master the art of ruthless self-respect, you stop chasing validation and start commanding it. How to kill weakness at its core. Weakness doesn't die through denial, it dies through confrontation. You can't outthink it, outtalk it, or outpray it. You have to face it, directly, relentlessly. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, weakness grows. Every time you make excuses, it sharpens its claws. Every time you delay action because you don't feel ready, it tightens its grip. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors those who act boldly, not cautiously. That's because boldness breaks the illusion of control. It proves that fear only had power because you obeyed it. So start small, confront the little things first. The uncomfortable truth, the delayed task, the unspoken boundary. Because courage is a muscle, and muscles don't grow in theory, they grow under pressure. Weakness thrives in avoidance. Strength is built through exposure. Expose yourself to difficulty until it stops feeling dangerous. Expose yourself to discomfort until it starts feeling natural. Expose yourself to challenge until it becomes your normal state. When you stop running from your own shadows, they lose their power. The goal isn't to never feel weak, it's to make weakness irrelevant. So face it, crush it, replace it, because the only cure for fear is action. Power through isolation. Sometimes the loudest growth happens in silence. You can't hear your true voice when you're surrounded by noise. Isolation isn't punishment, it's purification. Machiavelli knew this personally. After his political exile, He withdrew from the chaos of Florence to study the anatomy of power. That isolation gave birth to The Prince, one of the most influential works in history. Most people fear solitude because it forces them to face themselves without distractions. They drown in noise, notifications, conversations, validation, to avoid confronting their emptiness. But solitude reveals what's left when all illusions fade. When you step away from the crowd, clarity arrives. You realize how much energy you waste trying to be understood by people who will never understand you. You stop performing. You start becoming. And in that stillness, power returns. Use solitude like a forge. Study, build, reflect, rewrite your rules. Because isolation isn't loneliness, it's leverage. And when you come back, you'll move differently. While they were talking, you were transforming. While they were distracted, you were sharpening. And when you finally return, you won't need to announce your strength. It will announce itself, becoming the consequence. At some point, you stop chasing power and start embodying it. You stop reacting, stop explaining, stop negotiating your worth. You become the standard, not the seeker. Machiavelli believed that real authority isn't declared, it's felt. People sense when they're in the presence of someone who doesn't need their approval. That's the energy of the consequence. When you truly embody strength, you don't need to act strong. When you embody confidence, you don't need to prove it. When you embody power, you don't need to demand respect. People give it naturally. Stop apologizing for your boundaries. Stop defending your ambition. Stop explaining your silence. Power doesn't justify itself. It simply exists. You are not here to make people comfortable with your growth. You're here to remind them what's possible when weakness dies. Because real strength doesn't beg to be understood, it commands to be recognized. So let your success do the talking. Let your composure do the warning. Let your presence do the teaching. When you become the consequence, people stop testing you. They start adapting to you. Machiavelli's final warning. He who builds on the people builds on mud. Machiavelli wrote that over 5 centuries ago, and it's still the harshest truth about power. If your strength depends on other people's validation, you've already lost it. If your confidence depends on their praise, it was never yours to begin with. Power built on approval collapses the moment approval fades. The strongest men and women build their empire within, unshakable, unseen, and untouchable. They operate in silence, move with intent, and never confuse attention with respect. Because attention can be bought, respect must be earned. The final warning is simple. Never let your sense of power rest in anyone's hands but your own. Machiavelli didn't teach cruelty, he taught control. And the ultimate control is over yourself. Once your peace, purpose, and confidence are self-sourced, no betrayal can break you. So stop building your foundation in other people's opinions. Stop waiting for permission. Stop depending on recognition. Build yourself like stone, heavy, grounded, immovable. Because those who stand alone stand longest. Weakness isn't harmless. It's a system designed to keep you quiet, dependent, and distracted. But now you know how it works. You've seen how society programs compliance, how comfort kills ambition, and how fear can be turned into focus. You've learned to detach, to calculate, to build from the inside out. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming complete. Because when you master emotion, control attachment, and honor your own standards, you stop being the pawn and start being the player. Machiavelli's dark truth was never about manipulation. It was about liberation. The power to shape your life, not suffer it. So go forward. Choose strength over comfort. And remember, real power is silent, disciplined, and undeniable.